If you're tracking calories, macros, steps, and even your weight, that obsession might be the reason you can't lose weight. You see, the weight loss industry, they tell you to track everything, but for a lot of women, it's actually a recipe for disaster. So, how are you supposed to know what to track and what is a waste of time? Today, I'm breaking down the three types of people who should or should not be tracking when tracking is important based on what phase of weight loss you are in, the five categories of what most people track that may not matter, and then finally, the three things that most people don't track that actually move the needle. My background is as a project manager and a data nerd. I'm a 20-year PMP, including my time as the chief of staff for FBI Counterintelligence. So, plot twist, I'm going to share a contrarian take of what I don't track. And by the end of the episode, you might rethink what you're tracking too. Before we dive into the five categories of what to track or not, there are three things that I want to share just to level set and to provide some context. First, I want to ask you 6 questions, and I really want you to think about this. Number 1, why are you tracking whatever it is you are tracking? Number 2, are you tracking because someone told you to do it or because you genuinely enjoy doing it? Number 3, does it help you to stay on track or does it make you anxious? Number 4, does your system collapse when you stop tracking? Number 5, are you analyzing the data or does it just feel like something on your to-do list and it has zero value? And then finally, number 6, what are you actually doing with the data? Are you using it to move you forward towards your goal, or are you outsourcing your self-trust? Second, the 3 types of trackers. Because tracking is helpful to give you a baseline, especially with weight loss, but it might be more harmful than helpful for some people. And one of these is going to resonate with you. Number 1, the data nerd. You love numbers. Structure is your happy place. And despite everything that I'm sharing with you today, this one's actually me. Number 2 is the rule follower. So tracking leans more towards this religion and this obligation, and falling off causes total anxiety. And then number 3, the all or nothing. This is when tracking becomes this pass-fail system. So when you fail, it's like, screw it. I'll just be bad the rest of the day since it's already ruined and I'll start over tomorrow. So which one are you? And then third, it's important to distinguish the difference between tracking when you are in weight loss phase versus maintenance phase. Because when you are in fat loss, it might actually be beneficial to set up some systems. But at some point, depending on which of those 3 types that we just talked about, your life is going to be easier when it actually starts to become skill and intuition rather than tracking for tracking's sake. So the whole goal is, if you decide to track, it needs to be simple enough to do on your worst day. So the absolute worst day that you have, you still should be able to track. And tracking should also create an action that you will actually take. And it's designed to build self-trust, not dependence. So with that, let's get into the 5 things that you should or shouldn't be tracking. Number 1 is sleep. And yes, sleep might be important to track because it's one of the fastest ways to sabotage fat loss. The quality and the quantity of your sleep, it directly affects your hunger hormones, your cravings, your impulse control, and your cortisol. I mean, think about it. When you don't get a good night's sleep, are you more likely or less likely to eat all of the sugary sweets and carbs the next day? Yeah, thought so. When it comes to sleep, you can manually track your hours or perceived quality, like on a scale of 1 to 5. When I wake up, how rested do I feel? Or you can track how many times did you wake up in the middle of the night. if you have a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or a similar type of device, it will give you additional data, like how many hours were you in deep sleep or REM sleep. And I'm not sure how accurate that actually is, but it will give you an indication. Now, I used to wear a Fitbit and I used to track my sleep, but I actually stopped wearing the Fitbit because based on what I researched, they're talking about the EMFs and it being 24/7 on your wrist and, all of that. So I really didn't want that on my wrist. But then again, if you think about it, during the day, my phone is always like a foot away from me. So I don't know, I guess pick your poison, but I stopped wearing the Fitbit. And I stopped tracking my sleep for two reasons, two big reasons outside of the whole Fitbit thing. And the first was when I woke up, one of the first things that I did was I checked my phone for my sleep score. And yes, I mean, I meditate, I do all that, but I I realized I was grading myself before I even got out of bed and not a fan of that. Second, the honest truth, we don't need electronics to track. I mean, think about it. Tell me I'm wrong. The second you wake up, you know what your sleep was like. So what I did instead was I actually locked down my morning routine to get that sunlight, the morning sunlight first thing in the morning, the no caffeine after 12 o'clock. And then I locked in my evening routine to set me up for the best night sleep. When this is dialed in, and like, let's say I give it an 85 to 90% score, I actually sleep through the night. I wake up after 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I rarely wake up in the middle of the night anymore, and I rarely wake up to even go pee in the middle of the night anymore. But the nights that I do wake up, I know exactly what I did or didn't do earlier in the day. Number two is tracking the number of steps. And you've probably heard, get your 10,000 steps in every single day. I don't track my steps, and here's why. Here's my beef with 10,000 steps. First is there is new research coming out that 7,000 to 8,000 steps will give you the same benefits as 10,000 steps. But more importantly, for most people, 10,000 steps, it feels unattainable, especially with our busy, crazy lifestyles. And of anything that I talk about on this list, I think getting your steps in, it is probably the worst all or nothing offender. Because if 10,000 steps feels impossible, your day is going nonstop with work and career and family and kids and all the things, why even bother? Movement is important, but here's the difference I want you to think about. It's actually more important to move throughout the day rather than just one chunk of time. So I don't need a step goal, and I stopped tracking my steps because I built movement just into my daily life. And if you're like, but Holly, the weather sucks where I live, whatever, I hear you because I live in Pennsylvania. It is not always ideal outside. It's pretty crappy, I'd say, about half of the year. And okay, full disclosure, I am a fair weather girl. You are not going to see me outside in the freezing cold weather, walking in the rain. No. I have a walking pad and I have the walking pad under my standing desk. Now the walking pad, I want to say they're like $100, maybe $150 on Amazon. First of all, much cheaper than a traditional treadmill. Number two, like you can physically lift it yourself. You don't need like a whole crew to come in and put it together. And number three, it's also, I mean, I keep mine on the floor and it's fine where it is, but you can also like move it and store it and all the things. So it's a much easier, cheaper option if you want to walk or even do some light jogging. But if you don't want to get a walking pad, the other thing that I do is I walk around the house. I'll call a friend or I'll put a podcast on, or I'll even do some brainstorming with my business and just kind of get my phone out and just kind of brainstorm some ideas into my phone. So I will walk and talk. And things like the other thing I did was when I go to the bathroom, I incorporated walking around the house when I go to the bathroom. So it's not just walk 5 steps to the closest bathroom and come back to my office. I actually walk around the house and I just get more steps. So I incorporate walking throughout my entire day. And guess what? Most days, I either hit or exceed the 7 to 8,000 steps. Or worst case, I'm actually, pretty close. So if tracking steps isn't your thing, you may want to consider scheduling movement after your meals. So let's say your lunch break at work is 60 minutes. You eat and relax and socialize or whatever the first 20 or 30 minutes, and then go take a walk the second 30 minutes, and then take a walk after dinner. Find ways to move throughout the day. The number 3 thing to track or not is your weight. This one is the most sensitive of all of them, because so many women attach their value to the number between their 2 big toes. And what that number says has the possibility to trigger disordered eating, either restriction or binges. So I want you to listen closely, because I am not going to sugarcoat this. Your weight is going to fluctuate day to day based on what you ate or how hydrated you are, or maybe it's your time of the month or a whole number of factors. If you can weigh yourself in complete neutrality, do it once a week. You're fine. But if weighing yourself causes distress or directly impacts what you eat, then I encourage you to put the scale away, like on the top shelf, put it away, and get out one of those old school tape measures and track your progress that way. And again, once a week. And more importantly, if you do find that the scale triggers you, you may want to work with a coach or a therapist on those underlying issues. And one more thing. It's important to remember there's a difference between weight loss and fat loss. Everyone always talks about weight loss, and weight loss is kind of the generic term that everyone throws around, but that primary focus should be on fat loss and reducing inflammation. By the way, if you're getting value out of this video, hit that thumbs up and subscribe button. The 4th thing that you should track or not are your macros. There's a lot of hype around tracking macros. And when I say macros, I mean your protein, fat, and carbs. When I was in the process of losing 20 pounds a few years ago, I tracked macros for about 2 weeks, and it was helpful. But after that, I stopped. And again, counting macros can be helpful. But I do have a few beefs with this whole macro tracking. First, and especially for high-achieving women, it can turn into perfectionism or this macro obsession very quickly. As in, you don't feel safe eating unless your macros are perfect. And then you worry about gaining weight if they're not. And the second thing is that a lot of macro plans out there give you an industry standard, but they don't take into consideration how your body metabolizes food and whether you are trying to lose weight or whether you are in maintenance mode. And the macros, I mean, they're focused on protein, fat, and carbs. So they don't take into consideration what you are eating, even if it is a healthy food, even if it is a super food, if what you're eating is causing inflammation in your body. And I've got a what to do instead coming up in a minute. The 5th and final thing to track or not are your calories. I would also put in here points if you're doing the Weight Watchers thing, or even weighing your food. I do not track calories. I do not track points, and I have never once weighed my food. My clients don't do any of this either, and they still lose weight. Too many weight loss coaches, they focus on being in a calorie deficit. And then, again, Weight Watchers has the point system, so I'm going to use them simultaneously. But one of the suggested ways to do this to make sure you are getting, this restricted number of calories or points is to weigh your food. Okay, so instead of how many calories, let's have a conversation about the quality of those calories. Because, technically, you can eat your calories and Oreo cookies and still lose weight. But what actually is that doing to your metabolic health? It is difficult to get fat by eating real, whole, nutrient dense food. But there is a high probability of getting fat by eating a bunch of sugary sweets and processed food, and even I'll throw alcohol in there too. Eating constantly, eating ultra processed food, and again, I'm going to put alcohol in there too, it puts a strain on your liver and your metabolism. I don't know about you, but I personally actually care about the quality of my life when I am 80 years old. So I eat today because I want to give my 80-year-old self the best life possible. You see, the weight loss coaches and the nutritionists I see so often, they tell you, go ahead and eat the treat, go ahead and eat the cake, go ahead and have the glass of wine, because they know that's what you want to hear. And oftentimes I see it because they want you to like them. But if you're like the majority of the women who come into my program, they struggle with emotional eating. They can't just have one bite and put the fork down. There are some underlying issues that we need to address first before we start talking about moderation. So I am going to tell you the unpopular truth that you don't want to hear. If you want the body, if you want the health, if you do not want to be a sickly and frail old lady walking around when you're 80, you have to be disciplined now. What you eat has consequences. So by now you might be thinking, okay, Holly, I've got the 5 things that you don't track that maybe I should reconsider if I'm being efficient or effective with tracking my sleep. Number 1, my steps. Number 2, my weight. Number 3, macros. Number 4, and calories. Number 5. You might be thinking, okay, what am I supposed to track instead? I've got 3 things for you that I track instead, that I encourage my students and my clients to track instead, and you may want to consider them too. First is your protein intake. Thanks to decades of protein being demonized, along with the whole low-fat craze, many women underconsume protein. This has been debunked for years, but we are still clinging on to this advice like somehow magically it is going to work one of these days. Your labs are going to tell the whole story. But if you want to just spitball a way of knowing if you are protein deficient, and I want to be perfectly clear, what I'm about to say is not a clinical diagnosis, because this can also be signs of several other things. So we're just spitballing here. If you are not getting enough protein, oftentimes your hair will be thinning or falling out, brittle nails, you're going to feel sluggish and lethargic, and your skin's probably going to be dull. But there are still, quote unquote, professionals who advocate for 0.5 gram of protein per pound of body weight, when it should actually be closer to 1 gram of protein per pound of your body weight. And the best source of that protein is from meat, and yes, specifically red meat, one of the healthiest foods out there, again, that has been demonized for decades. So red meat, chicken, turkey, eggs, fish, all good. And you might be thinking, okay, Holly, how am I supposed to do the math, especially if I don't actually want to do all the tracking? So I'll make it easy for you. And again, this is just spitballing. This is not an exact science. This is a way to do it without getting all crazy about the tracking and the measuring. You want a minimum of 30 to 35 grams of protein in each meal. So the easiest way to just eyeball this, make a fist, and your meat should be a little bit bigger than your fist. The portion of your meat on your plate should be a little bit bigger than your fist. Protein is going to help you stay fuller longer, and not in a bloated way, but in a satisfied, satiated kind of way. It's going to help with your blood sugar stability. It's going to help with better metabolism. And the bottom line, the more you eat protein, and specifically protein from red meat, Your macros and your calories are just going to naturally fall into place. The second thing that I recommend to track instead is what I call your big C consumption. Now, what we consume isn't just what we eat. It is who we spend our time with. It is social media. It's the news. It's our thoughts. We are neurologically wired to mirror the emotional and behavior patterns of the people around us, both in our personal space and even complete strangers on social media. And depending on whether this consumption is positive or negative, this can impact your food consumption. So, one of the best questions that you can ask yourself is this person or activity, is it draining me or is it giving me energy? Am I lifted up or do I feel defeated? And then, what does my food consumption look like afterwards? The third thing that I recommend is to track your cravings patterns. The students inside the Break Emotional Eating Accelerator, they go through a series of exercises to map this out. And by the end, their patterns are right in front of them. They are right in front of their face staring at them. And this actually gives them a personalized viewpoint of how to obliterate their cravings within this container of a structured process. And if that sounds interesting to you, I will leave a link in the show notes. And by the way, you can get insider access for less than a typical Target run. So I hope this was beneficial for you to start thinking about what you are tracking from a different perspective and to really hold the fire, whether what you're tracking, whether it's worth it or not. And then thinking about it from the perspective of, is tracking these behaviors actually helping you to get the results? Because like I said before, if what you are tracking and if that behavior can't hold up on your most stressful and chaotic day, then what good is it? So thanks for tuning in. I'm Holly Bertone, and this is Weight Loss Forensics.